Okay. Strawberry. And that is Strawberry Letter 23 from Jessie J. It's now 2 minutes, make that 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. And every Tuesday from 11 till 11:50, 55 thereabouts, what we do here is discuss everything that relates to your career, your growth, your personal development, your success, and whatever the definition of it is. We equip you with knowledge, right education, just so that you can make better decisions and you can be a better person and your pockets can also tell. Also, those things that relate to the workplace, your diaries, your experiences, your climbing up the ladder, and everything in between. That's what we do on Office Journal on Tuesdays from 11 till 11:55 on Smooth 98.1. And my name is Oluwaseun Olusegun. If you're following us across all socials, you would have seen the flyer ahead of time. And that includes Instagram, Twitter, and not to leave out our WhatsApp status. The WhatsApp line to send the messages to so that you can be saved. I mean, your contact can be saved and you can view our status at any time is 0809 444 0981. So we usually tell you what to expect so that you set your reminders and you calibrate your expectation and you also bring along your notepad and whatever it is you use in taking notes. And on the flyer, we told you that this morning we're going to be talking about people management. And not just that, what's the importance of the knowledge of people's management as well as the best practices that should be employed in the workspace. And so this morning, we are getting started with the conversation. I'm not going to be doing the talking. I do have a seasoned, in capital letters, professional with us, one who is a highly respected leadership and career success coach with almost 3 decades of experience as a strategic business leader. And he's gone through different disciplines and through different sectors, from engineering to information technology to hospitality and financial services. He is a leadership coach as well as the founder of the hashtag HR with EM. And currently, he's serving as a director of human resources at Eco Hotels and Suites, where he's leading a team of HR professionals in order to create people first culture as what you can call one of Africa's premier hospitality brands. So please welcome with me this morning to discuss the topic of people management, Mr. Emmanuel Michael. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Shell, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again, once again on Office Journal. I think this will be the second or third time now I'm
Yes,
featuring on your show.
second. Yeah.
Okay, so people management, like you rightly said, is one of the most important yet underrated aspect of organizational success.
Mm.
It's at the heart of leadership and employee experience. My goal today in this show is to try to demystify what people management really is, why it matters, what good looks like. Okay, when we talk about good people management, what does it really look like? And how each of us, whether you are in HR, whether you are in management or in any leadership role, can get better at managing people effectively, because we all need to know how to manage people in order to achieve the results that we desire.
Thank you for giving such a wonderful overview already. And I think we could just take the cutlery and start to slice into this sumptuous meal that we have before us, starting with what people should think when they hear people management. What does it really entail?
Okay, so when we talk about people management, I will start with a very simple definition. Okay, people management is the process of hiring, leading, developing, motivating, and retaining employees to achieve both individual and organizational goals. Let me take that again. So I'm saying that people management is the process of hiring, leading, developing, motivating, and retaining employees to achieve both individual and organizational goals. So the key here is that it's not just about the process or policies. It's about the people, real people with ideas, emotions, aspirations, and challenges. So it includes everything. When we talk about people management, it includes everything from setting expectations. What sort of expectations? What do you want people to achieve, right? What do you want them to do? To coaching team members. So you have people who work with you. You don't just set expectation only, you also have to coach them. While coaching them, you also give feedback, okay? And as they perform, you recognize performance. And when you work with 2 or 3 people, there will be conflict from time to time. So you resolve conflict, okay? And then as the leader, your responsibility is to create an environment where everybody can thrive. So you have to create that enabling work environment. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is that people management is the human side of management. So you have
Mm,
different sides of management and organization. So people management is the human side. You have the asset management, you have other type of resources that you are managing as a manager. So when you manage people as a manager or as a leader, the human side of management is what we refer to as people management. So think of a team leader who only delegates tasks, okay, without listening to their team members, never offers feedback, and he or she takes credit for all the work that is done. That is a sign of a very poor people management practice. So
mm,
as a very good people manager, you don't just delegate tasks. You need to make sure you follow up, show people exactly what they need to do. And when you compare one who just delegates tasks without any follow-up, no feedback, compare that with a leader who sets clear goals, telling you as soon as you come in on at the beginning of the year or when you just resume, this is exactly what we need you to do. Checks in regularly, gives recognition when you've done well, supports your development. Sometimes we hire people, put them at workplace, and we don't even provide them the necessary skills to help them to become better at what they are doing. We don't genuinely care. Okay, when you have somebody who genuinely cares about the team member, the person shows up and their face is looking sad. You try to find out what is happening to them. Maybe they have a child, they're not feeling too well. Okay, so
mm,
that's the contrast between somebody who is a good people manager and one who is not a people manager. So for you to be an effective people manager, you must set clear goals, you must check in on your people regularly, you must provide recognition when people have done well, you must support their development, okay? Invest
mm,
in training them. Don't say because they're going to leave tomorrow, so I won't train them. Because when you don't train them, it means they will deliver poor quality job for you. But when you train them, they will be best or good at what they are doing in the organization, and you also benefit from it for the time that they are with you. Okay, make sure you train them so they can give the best to the organization and to the stakeholders that interact with the organization.
Thank you for that rich take on it. And I would go back to something you said when you said people management is the human side. And about humans, there is a maxim that humans are the most difficult creatures to work with on earth, that you can tame animals, you can tame anything whatsoever, but humans, they are difficult to work with. Now, you've been in the space for about 3 decades. What can you say about that? Do you agree that humans are so difficult to work with, or you just need to find the right technique in order for you to be able to work with anybody?
That statement is absolutely correct. It's
Okay.
easier to manage machines than to manage humans. Why do I say so? A machine, you just provide an instruction and the machine will deliver exactly based on the instruction that you've provided. But for humans, no. Everybody is unique in their own way. You can pass the same instruction to 10 different people. They will all interpret it in 10 different ways. So if it's a machine will interpret it just one way. So humans are actually very difficult. So there is something that I usually recommend. There is this personality test or personality assessment uh, that is necessary for everyone who is leading a team to carry out that personality assessment in order to determine the temperament of each of the team members that you have, and even including yourself. So based on that personality assessment, one of the exercises that I've done in the past is to produce what I call an owner's manual. When you buy a car, or you buy any tool, It's usually an owner's manual you need that tells you how to operate that particular device. So we all need an owner's manual for ourselves, and we can get that only through this assessment. So when you've done this assessment, it enables you to know the kind of person you are, how you want people to relate with you, how you understand things and all that. So it helps to address the issue of conflict, okay? Uh, so it's good for people to do that. So when you have that assessment done, what I've done in previous place that when we do this assessment, I will then line them up in order to see what is it that is unique about each of my team members. Where does their strength lie and weaknesses? And then that helps me to be able to know how to assign tasks, who to give what to do. Okay, so that statement, like I said, is completely true. So we need to study each person in order to know how to manage them properly. So it's not just one size fits all. You have to manage people according to the level of their strength in that organization or in that team.
Mhm. Thank you. Now let's go further in this and talk about emotional intelligence because I could deduce that as you were talking about knowing the people's temperament and each person's personality. So, what is the role of emotional management? Oh, sorry, emotional intelligence in the workspace? Is this one of those things that's just a buzzword, or it's a training, a knowledge, or maybe even a skill that any person who calls him or herself a people manager must have?
Excuse me. So emotional intelligence is very key. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, we're talking about you, one, being aware of yourself, being aware of the people who work with you, and three, being aware of the environment in which you all work. So all these three segments of the emotional awareness will impact how you either become productive, effective, or fail in the organization. So if you are not aware of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, the way people perceive you, okay, you're not aware of when you say something to your team member, how does it make them feel? You need to be aware of what you are saying. How does it impact the other person? It's very critical in order for you to be able to communicate correctly and for them to understand exactly what you are sharing. The environment in which you also work is also very critical for you to be aware whether that environment is conducive enough to allow for people to thrive. If the environment is not conducive enough for people to thrive, let's say, for instance, you want people to work in a place and the place is very hot. And so because it's very hot, the environment is hot, what happens? People are not able to focus and concentrate and put in their best. They are distracted by the things that are, or maybe the place is very noisy and you want the person to do a focused job where they need to do some sort of thinking, that environment is not conducive. So you need to be aware that this environment is not conducive for this type of job that we want these people to do. So it means we need to change. Even the chair and table that we provide for people to work with, is it conducive enough for them to sit down and do their job properly? Is it helping to improve their health or is making their health to deteriorate? So these are some of the things we need to look at. The team members that they are working with, how do they receive feedback? How do they make contribution to the work that is being carried out? So it's very critical for any leader to be emotionally aware. So when you are sitting, say, in a meeting room and then you are discussing and you notice within the room, only one person is speaking all the time. Each time there's an issue, one person speaks and overshadows every other person. Maybe some other person wants to speak up and then one person who is more vocal shuts them down. So as a leader, your role would be to, because you want to create an inclusive space, those people who are silent, you will call on them to make their contribution. And it could be that they have something valuable to say, but because their voice is not as loud as the other people who are loud enough, so they don't even say a thing. And by the time you now call on them to speak, you notice that they are able to contribute something that is useful and valuable to the organization. And aside from that, when you begin to call on everyone on the table, it will create a sense, especially some sort of semblance for the people who are the most vocal, that there is need to allow room for other people to also speak up. So they won't want to always take over the meeting completely. So emotional intelligence or emotional awareness is critical both for the leader and for people who are part of the team.
Mm.
So, and again, it's a skill. You need to learn it. So it's a skill
Yeah.
that you need to learn. So you don't just suddenly become emotionally aware. It's like when someone has a medical condition, let's say asthmatic, say somebody is
Mm.
asthmatic, and maybe you didn't know that you are asthmatic, and then suddenly the doctor diagnosed that the person is asthmatic. What will happen? You notice that the doctor will tell you you need to continue to be aware of the triggers. So maybe you go into a particular place when you have an attack, you need to play back and see, okay, where have I been? What is it that causes this asthma to, that triggers asthma? And then you begin to eliminate those particular areas. So it means that your senses now become heightened and you are very, very aware of whatever it is that's going around you, and you are making mental notes of what's going, so that you help yourself to avoid those triggers that will make you have a crisis. So that's exactly the way I see emotional awareness or intelligence, as we call it.
Now, at this point, I cannot help but bring into this conversation and ask that are you aware of the conversations about Gen Z and the attitude in quotes in the workspace, or generally some, of course, it's not all the Gen Z that are like that, but it looks like quite a number of them in the workspace have they've got a distinct character and the way that they tend to act, and they're free and they go about things. So are you aware of the general label that has been given to Gen Z? And if yes, what can you say about this? Or you think, maybe it's because people are just in the old age and they're refusing to be flexible.
Okay, so yes, I've heard about Gen Z and people saying they are laid back, every little thing, they talk about their mental health and all that, right? They like to complain, they don't want to be given serious stuff. But I think there was one session I had with some HR professionals where we talked about the different generations in the workplace. So today we have close to 6 generations, right, working together, including up Gen Z. You now have the Gen Alphas. Gen Alphas are now the ones who are doing internship within our organization. And so you will notice that with all these different categories of generations, what is unique is that because of the way, the older ones either treat the children that are coming or those coming after them, that has created some sort of entitlement or way of behavior, which is different from, let me say, those of us who are older, maybe we had to go through some sort of hardship to get things done. And because we suffered, let me put it that way, we suffered to get things done. We don't want our children to suffer. We don't want them to suffer what we suffered, right? And so we make life easier for them. So that's exactly what has happened. So the Gen Z that we have today, we were the ones who created that kind of environment for them. We tried because we felt we have suffered so much, we don't want them to suffer. So what do we then do right now? When you have them in the workplace, it means that for any manager to be or leader to be successful at managing their team members, you need to understand the uniqueness of each of these persons. Now we go back to this emotional intelligence or emotional awareness thing again to understand the characteristics of these different generations. When you understand the characteristics of each of the generations, it will enable you to know how to deal with them. You remember I talked about conducting a personality assessment test. The
Yes.
personality assessment test will enable you know that these are the characters or uniqueness of this particular generation. And so this is, if I want to get results, this is what I need to do. So it's like management by, let's say management by objective, uh, not a one size fit all management style, okay? Situational based management style. That's what you need to use, okay? So
Mm.
assess each person, determine what they can do, and provide them or give them tasks according to their strengths. Okay? Determine their weaknesses and make sure you avoid those things that will make them not to succeed. So we all have different characteristics, and there is need to study them, understand each one, and then provide support based on. So let's say, for instance, now you have someone whom in my team, usually what I try to do is to identify each person's strength and weakness. So there are some people that I can give a task, okay? Give a task to the person and go to sleep because I know this person is going to deliver. There are some people that when I give them a task, I need to follow them up. If I don't follow them up, they will not give me what I want, right? So
Mm.
when you've assess all your team members this way. You'll be able to know, okay, this person is a Gen Z, this is how they behave. And again, it's not everyone who is Gen Z that behaves the same way. So you might
True.
have 2, 3, 4 Gen Z people here, and their characteristics are slightly different from the other. So assess each one and then provide them tasks according to their strength. Provide the monitoring or close monitoring as required based on their capacity to be able to deliver on the job. So that is, for me, how I will manage someone who is a Gen Z. And then sometimes even the Gen Zs can teach you something. There are some things you can learn. So you won't say because you are older than them, you've been in the business for very long, there are certain things that they can teach you. Still, take tech, for instance, the use of AI tools. They might even be better at using those things than you. So it's something you can learn. So I remember I talked about reverse mentoring in that engagement. So
Yeah.
create some sort of reverse mentoring opportunity whereby these younger ones can also show the older ones certain things that they are not conversant with or they are not good at.
Mm. Thank you. I'm tempted to ask one of the questions I plan for later, and that's about the role of technology and remote working in people management, but I'll keep that in the cooler and follow up with some things that you have said. Because I was
Okay.
going to ask the role of the HR manager in helping to build emotional intelligence and emotional resilience in the workspace. I think you answered a little bit of that, but would you like
Mhm.
to put more into it?
Okay, so for the HR manager, the HR manager's role is uh, the HR manager is responsible for helping to create the structure that is required, helping to ensure that people acquire the right skills, okay,
Mm.
uh, to manage people. So it's not just people management responsibility. It's not just for the HR manager. It's not just an HR manager's role. It is the
Okay.
responsibility of everyone within the organization that manages people. Okay, so the HR should provide the structure. And when I talk about the structure, the HR manager should provide policies, trainings, put in place performance systems that would help the day-to-day line manager to know exactly what to do in order to shape the kind of employee experience that the organization wants to achieve, right? So
Mm-hmm.
HR managers or HR professionals, their role is more like it's a means of partnering, okay? Partnering with the leaders in the organization to build their capacities in emotional intelligence, build their capacity in performance management, build their capacity in coaching. So these days, we encourage that leaders should lead as a coach. And when we talk about leading as a coach, it means that you don't just give instruction on instruction. So what coaches do is that when an employee comes with a challenge, like you come with a challenge to me now, I will not just give you an answer. I will then begin to ask you questions. Okay,
Mm.
we call them powerful coaching questions. So I begin to ask you questions to ask you, what do you think you need to do to resolve this particular? And the person will bring up ideas, and then I'll be challenging those ideas. Because I challenge those ideas, it makes the team member to think deeply and reflect on the solutions that they are recommending. Okay. And at the end of the day, they will come up with the best solution and then they go and try it and then they succeed. Okay? So that's what the HR manager is supposed to do, help the manager lead like a coach by acquiring that particular skill. Create an environment where the leader is able to ensure that they carry everyone along. And then for the managers,
Sorry.
when we talk about people management for the managers, okay? So there is need for the managers to shift from command and control to support and develop. And this is what the HR professional in that organization needs to help the manager to acquire the skill of moving from command and control to support and develop. And when I talk about support and develop, you are supporting because when your team member achieves whatever goal that you set out for them, right? If they achieve or complete that task correctly and on time, what it does for the manager is that because they are achieving theirs, it means the manager is also achieving his or her own goal. So when they do well, it makes the manager to look well, right? So which means
Mm,
as a manager, my responsibility will then be how can I support my team members to achieve whatever goal or task that has been assigned uh, to them. And when we talk about the team members, okay, there is need for the team members, like I said earlier, using this assessment to understand their strength and aspiration. Okay, so the HR professional will then try to develop this tool or recommend a tool that will help the team members understand their strengths. And that will then enable them know how they can play within the space to provide, to deliver effectively on their roles and responsibility.
mm. Well, at this point, I think I'm going to pause my questions on people management and stay a little bit on HR manager because with everything that you've listed, I'm hearing you saying the leader should be more of a coach. And I'm thinking with the things you've listed, it looks like workspaces and workplace should be so good that people do not want to quit their job. So now my question is, we don't seem to have many of these people that you've listed. So, what does it take to be such a great HR manager? And why is it that we don't seem to have many of them?
Okay, you know, there's this saying, I'm sure you probably heard it, that people don't leave companies, they leave managers, right?
Yes, yes.
So that is very true. Um, so what then happens is in organizations where you don't find the right environment, there is need to take a look at the HR managers and the organization. And what I've also seen is that sometimes people who are hired to occupy the HR manager role might not necessarily be fully qualified or experienced
Wow.
to handle the role. So you have people who are put in HR role whose main responsibility is to take instructions from above and just execute, right?
Mm,
And which is why we're advocating for people to ensure that irrespective of which discipline you are coming from, there's need for you to be grounded in HR. So which means you need to undergo some sort of training to understand the role that HR plays in the organization. If you listen to Dave Ulrich, he's called the father of modern HR. He will tell you that the role of HR in any organization is to help the organization to achieve its organizational goals. Okay, and how do you achieve the organization? By ensuring that all the stakeholders are engaged to do what they are supposed to do. So, how does the HR manager engage the stakeholders? If you don't know what the organization needs to achieve, how then do you know how to support the different stakeholders, okay? So the HR person, one, needs to understand what HR is. HR is not just about hiring, firing people. It goes beyond hiring and firing. The major thing for me as an HR person is that you need to know how does this business make money, okay?
mm,
In everything that I'm recommending, how will the proposal or recommendation help the organization achieve its goal? And at the same time helping the people helping the people become the best of themselves. Okay, so that's basically what the HR person needs to do. So there's need for HR managers. One, if they are not certified or properly trained, then they need to go through proper training. And then I know that there are several quack training HR bodies claiming to be the best chartered in the country. Well, there is one in Nigeria that we know that, okay, this is the HR body that is supposed to regulate that particular practice. When you go through their training, you will get those fundamentals that you need to be able to use to enable you uh, provide the kind of service that is required to help your organization achieve its goals. So HR managers need to be able to go through this training, understand exactly what their roles are. It's not just to take instruction. Okay? It goes to the point where sometimes you might even have to, sacrifice yourself if the organization is not willing to stay compliant and do the right things that will enable them build the people and then help to support the organization achieve its goals. So there's need to make sure that We don't just put anyone in the role of HR. There are situations whereby when somebody is not doing well, send him to HR. No, HR is beyond that. So everybody think that they can do HR. It's not, everybody cannot do HR. Okay? You must have the passion for doing that job, because as the HR person, you are like in between the management and the employees. So everybody is pulling you at two different ends. And so your role is to see how do you balance the demands from the employees and demands from the organization. Okay. And the way you can do it is to ensure there's some sort of alignment whereby the employees will then see that when the organization achieves its goal, okay, they also will benefit. But if the organization is failing in achieving its goal, there's no way the employees will benefit. And so that's a skill that anyone who wants to occupy the role of HR manager needs to acquire. And you can only acquire that through some sort of training, and then get people who are senior in the field to mentor you and guide you to be able to know how to navigate the terrain or the challenges that will come with the tough of being in that particular role.
Thank you so much for enlightening us on that. And I'll echo what you have said. Please, if you're out there and you're considering a career in HR management, do go through the necessary route so that you do not contribute to people's HR trauma. I want to believe that that is an official thing, because so many encounters with bad HR managers have left a bad taste in our mouths. And that's why we associate some negative feelings and emotions with HR whenever we hear them, and we think that they are witches or people who really don't like you or so. So please, if you want to be in that, just make sure that you go through the right training. And I was waiting for you to mention the body that you said does the accurate training so that more people can be aware and we can have better leaders in the workspace.
Okay, so the body I didn't want to, I don't know if I'm allowed to, I thought it would be like a commercial. So the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management in Nigeria, that's the foremost and the only recognized body that regulates the practice of HR in Nigeria. So it's the CIPM, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you want to practice HR in Nigeria, then you need to make sure you are part of that particular body. You can get all the international certifications. Yes, that will help you to become a global person or practice globally, but you must get the local certification for the country in which you operate. And for Nigeria, the CIPM is what you should try to get and not any other one.
That it's important to mention that because I believe it contributes to national sanity.
All right.
Because if a person goes to workspace and it is not very good for them, they're going to contribute to possible road accidents. When a person is angry and they are frustrated, it could even contribute to marriages breaking because you come home with anger built up from workspace. And these things all go in the cycle. But thank you very much. We're going to take a breather. And when we come back, we'll be continuing this conversation and we talk about how leaders can breed leaders without making it look like I am favoring this person over another while we are taking or being mindful of the individual strength. So a way that we are pushing each other or pushing the other people without it looking like you're favoring some people, putting some people over the others. We'll talk about that and many more right after this breather. In case you're joining us for the first time, you are listening to Office Journal right here on Smooth 98.1. And it's been such an illuminating conversation this morning, talking about people management, the best practices, the importance in the workspace. Do stay with us. What's up? This is Diary. So just have a short breather, less than a minute, and we come back.
Okay.
Entertainment stories. Spice up your day with some entertainment on the Smooth Breakfast Show. One of the greatest, ain't no debate, no. We've got your top trending stories from the entertainment scene on the front burner. It's movies, fashion, music, and everything in between. Tune in to the Grapevine and keep up with the Smooth Paparazzi as we bring you up to speed with the latest in the world of entertainment. The Great Grapevine every Tuesday and Thursday from 8:15 a.m. Perfect time.
This is Mr. C, and you're listening to Smooth 98.1 for music and more.
Okay, we're back. Love music, love life, a better you, educated you, informed you, enlightened you. And we are talking about the best practices as touching people management in the workspace. This is Office Journal right here on Smooth 98.1. And our guest who has been live with us virtually, and you can see him on YouTube as well as my face. YouTube channel is at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. At Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Maybe you can also copy the link and share with your HR manager so that if they are not properly trained, this will be that message to them to go get trained so that the workspace can be healthier for everyone. So at Smooth 981 FM Lagos is the YouTube channel. And my guest is a leadership coach as well as the founder, #HR with EM. He's Mr. Emmanuel Michael. Now, I want to talk about how because we're talking about best practices as touching people management, how do you make sure that underperforming employees perform better without necessarily breathing down heavily or holding them by their throats?
Okay, so before I go into that, let me just list out 7 best practices in people management. And I will then conclude with how do you make sure people get their job done without putting heavily on them. So the first best practice that I want to talk about is, 1, when an organization practices a good people management, when there's a good people management practice in an organization, you will notice, 1, that communication is clear and regular, okay? And when communication is clear and regular, what I basically mean, or I'm trying to say, is that the leader will need to be open and honest. When the leader is open and honest, what happens is that people perform better when that expectations are clear. 2, there's need to provide continuous feedback, okay? And we'll talk about continuous feedback. Don't wait, some organizations will wait until the year end before they carry out or give any feedback when they are doing the performance assessment. So don't wait until the end of the year. You need to provide feedback timely. It should be timely and constructive, which means as something is occurring, provide feedback immediately. That's the only time the person will be able to correct course, right? We don't wait until the end of the month before we say your performance is not good. Maybe we're expecting sales is poor at the end of the month. Already the deed is done. So from day one, you notice that something is not working well, you begin to correct. Okay, yesterday we were supposed to achieve sale maybe 5 products or quantity of a particular product, and we noticed we only sold 2. It means that on day 2, it will be 5 plus the 3 that we missed the previous day. To provide continuous feedback. Contribution, there's need to recognize contribution, okay? Appreciation is like a performance enhancer. So a simple thank you can go a long way to make the person to want to do more. Then there's need to build trust. And how do you build trust? By avoiding micromanagement, okay? You show trust by when you give someone the responsibility and allow them to be able to, in their own way, try to get that thing done. Handle conflicts early and fairly. So don't wait until the conflict has become a very big trouble. Something happens, you keep sweeping it under the carpet, and then it becomes difficult to address. Then invest in growth. So I talked earlier about investing in growth, developing people. So invest in growth, provide training, provide mentoring, provide opportunity for people to develop. Opportunity for people to develop is basically giving them a higher responsibility, so to see how they can perform. So the person is not a supervisor yet at the moment, but give them a responsibility that will make them begin to practice how to become a supervisor. And then as the leader, you must lead by example. If you don't lead by example, if you say, do as I do, not as I do, as I say, not as I do, then you will get you will not get the kind of result that you are expecting. So lead by example in terms of integrity, humility, and empathy with your team. Okay. Now, how do you get people to get job done without breathing hard on them? When you set clear goals, it makes it easy for people to get the job done. When the goals that you've given to your team member is not very clear, if it's ambiguous, you notice that the person will continue to struggle because they are not very sure of what you want them to achieve. So one, the goal has to be very clear. Two, you need to provide constant and regular feedback, okay? Provide feedback when you want someone to get a job done for you. Don't wait until the end of the deadline. Ask them to give you like progress reports, okay? When they provide you a progress report, you'll be able to know whether they are on track or not on track. And that will then help you to ensure, and when you've seen that they are on track, then you can then allow them, because you know that at the end of the day, they will get the right result. So for me, that is usually how I manage people to ensure that I'm not always on there. Because if you give somebody a task and every minute you come and check how far, then there's a problem. The person will even be confused, not knowing what to do. So give them the task, make sure the instruction is very clear. If you are not sure whether they will deliver correctly, ask them as soon as they start, they can come and share with you what they've done, maybe in the first day or two. So you just double check that they are on the right track. When they're on the right track, then you leave them to go ahead. And at the end of the day, you get the right results that you are looking for.
Thank you. Now, back to that question I said I would ask when we come back from the breather. And it's about how you can nurture future leaders in the workspace without projecting or giving the impression of favoritism in the team.
Okay, so how to do that? One is, like I said, carry out an assessment of all your team members. So what thing I do with my team is that I hold a one-on-one conversation with each person, okay? And I call it, some people call it talent review. Some people call it a career conversation, where you need to have a one-on-one conversation with each person, okay? In that conversation, basically what you are trying to do is, one, to understand their strength, to understand their aspiration, okay? And then understand what challenges that they are facing in the workplace. When you've had that conversation with each person, you're able to identify their aspiration, and their aspiration will help you then determine what sort of development programs or goals you need to set between you and them. So each person will have their own development plan based on that conversation. And because you are having that conversation with everyone within the organization, and if each person will be at different level, so you're able to put in place a program that will help each person develop from whatever level where they are to where they want to get to. So with this, issue of favoritism will be off it, because you're not just talking to one person whom you feel, okay, this guy is performing, because he's performing, so I need to invest more in him. So you are talking to the person who is performing, you're talking to the one who is also not performing, to see what is it that is making them not to perform, and how can you help them as a manager. Because if let's say you have 5 people working with you, and only 4 are achieving their goal, one is failing. By the time you sum up the achievement of the 5 team members, you know that you will not be hitting 100%. And for you, you want to hit 100% and above, okay? And even if the others are helping you hit 100%, because there is a minus somewhere, maybe that would have been the person that will contribute to enable you get 120, 150%, no? Because you also want to be recognized for a superlative performance. And so they need to have that one-on-one career conversation with each person in your team, understand the challenges that they are going through, understand their aspiration, and then based on the outcome of that conversation, we can put down an action plan. And that will now become what you begin to monitor with them every month or every 2 weeks, depending on the frequency of the meeting that you've set with the team members.
That is some solid HR wisdom. Thank you. And finally, are there some mistakes you have observed that HR managers or people who manage people generally that they make?
So one mistake that I've noticed is that sometimes when we talk about people management, we think it's an HR issue. So you have situations where, take discipline, for instance, and staff maybe doesn't show up early at work, or they are not performing well. The next thing you see is the manager will say, okay, go to HR. And then if you call the HR, this person is not performing. He or she wants HR to be the one to speak to that particular staff. That is completely uh, bad. Okay, that's a big, big mistake. Because one, the HR manager, and then sometimes, well, somebody is also not performing, you send them to HR. You notice that the HR, let's say even you want to issue a query, you now ask the HR manager to issue the query to the staff. And I'm asking myself, this person does not work directly with me. Why should I be the one talking to them about their performance, talking to them about their conduct? When they have a manager that they directly worked with. Now, you even don't want the person to work with you. Now send the person to HR. HR, please terminate this person. No, that's completely wrong. So what should happen is that the line manager needs to sit with their team member to discuss their performance. Okay, discuss the performance, and so the HR manager can help the line manager, providing him or her the tools that will enable them to manage that performance appropriately. Okay, sit with them, discuss the performance, agree the goals. The HR person can sit in there as a witness, but not the HR manager taking over the responsibility of the line manager to manage the people, because they don't work directly with you. People who work directly with me, yes, I can manage their performance. I can talk to them about productivity. I can talk to them about their conduct at work. That is what line managers should be doing. They should stop outsourcing their responsibility to the HR. And we also have HR managers who decide to say, I'm a jack of all trades. They want to take over everything. They want to be the police everywhere. You will not be able to succeed that, because when you start doing that, you discover the HR manager is bogged down with administrative things instead of thinking of how to contribute strategically to the organization, putting in place structures, frameworks that will help people, everyone to excel. So HR managers should help line managers to become very strong in people management so that they can have that particular skill, manage their people effectively, and at the end of the day, the HR manager will also take the praise because you've been able to put in place a framework that will enable line managers to succeed and get the type of productivity and success that they desire.
Thank you for such uh not just balanced, but an in-depth understanding that you have shared this morning on people management, as well as the role of the HR and other members in the management team and in the workspace, knowing the role of the HR. Because sometimes I think with the understanding now, I see that unintentionally, they make the HR manager to be the bad guy. I mean, if you
Yeah,
tell the HR manager to fire someone, you make them like the bad guy.
yeah.
So
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. So as we round up, I'd like to leave a message with our listeners, those who will be watching and those who are currently watching. So I want to say that I'd like everyone to remember that people management is not just about being perfect, it's about being present, intentional, and human. Every decision you make, every conversation you have is a moment of influence. Use it to uplift, guide, and build trust. The best leaders don't just manage tasks, they grow people. So whether you are in HR, a team lead, or an aspiring leader, commit to becoming someone who makes work a place where people feel seen, supported, and inspired. So thank you once again for the opportunity to share on this platform. I hope today's conversation sparks reflection and positive change in how we manage and lead people.
Now, while there are no people in the studio to give round of applause, I'm going to play it. That deserves some round of applause. Thank
Thank
you
you. Thank you.
for that
Thank you.
perfect mic drop moment with the HR wisdom today, or people management wisdom today. It's been golden. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you for the enlightenment. And I'm certain that at least one person has benefited from this. Now, just in case you are joining us, I'm sorry, you're not in time, but the good thing is you can catch up with this conversation, the repeat version of it, by going to our YouTube stream or our YouTube page, where you'd find the stream there. And it is at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And even if you have been a part of it since the start of the show, you can always go back to watch. I do that so that if there were some other things I missed in the course of the conversation, I can always catch up on it. So go back there and watch and share with someone who needs this information. And don't forget that if you want to be in the HR space, please go through the necessary certification and have the necessary knowledge so that we are going to make better people in the workplace and we are not going to traumatize them. But across all social media platforms, I know that you're Emmanuel Michael across all socials, right? What about your
Yes,
handles?
at En Michael, Emichael, across all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's
At
the
En
handle you're
Michael,
searching
yes.
for.
And then if
And
you're struggling with at En Michael, you can search with the hashtag HR with EM. You will find everything about me on the internet, digital world, yeah.
perfect. Thank you. And thank you again. We're done for today. We'll be back next week on Office Journal from 11 till 11:50 right here on Smooth 98.1. You know, on Casbah, that's when we enjoy African music from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. And as usual, I'll be your host. So you better join me then so that you have a fantastic time as you go about your work and whatever it is that you're doing from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun. And thank you for listening to Smooth 90.1. Thank you very much. It
Thank
was
you.
lovely. I enjoyed it and I loved
Me
every part
too.
of it.